Precariously perched far above a desert landscape, it is hard to believe that this building was once the highest ski lodge and restaurant in the world. Now mostly abandoned, the photo here captures what remains of the Chacaltaya ski resort in Bolivia. The Chacaltaya glacier that once supported operations all but vanished in 2009. Today, only an unofficial ski run, a mere 600 feet or 180 meters long, will sometimes be open when there is winter snow. Bridge of Winds. In Molo, the language of a native cultural group, Andean Plateau, predating the Inca civilization, Chacaltaya means Bridge of Winds, or Winds Meeting Point. The mountain is located in the Cordillera Real, part of the mountain range Cordillera Oriental of the Bolivian Andes. It houses the only ski resort in all of Bolivia and the world's highest restaurant, with the mountain at an elevation of 17,785 feet or 5,421 meters. The Chacaltaya Glacier, which was over 18,000 years old, once had an area of 0.22 kilometers. The ski resorts on the mountain peak opened towards the end of the 1930s to upper and middle-class clients, mostly from the neighboring city of La Paz. Located 17,519 feet above sea level, the resorts held the title of the world's highest ski resort, being even higher than the North Base Camp at Mount Everest. While the ski resort has lost the record it held, the restaurant continues to be recognized by Guinness World Records. Over the rest of the 20th century, Bolivians enjoyed ski trips to Chacaltaya, which is only an hour's drive away from La Paz. They could access the mountain peak through the mechanical lift, which took them up to the glacier. The mountain was packed with tourists year-round, being the only ski resort in the entire country. The lift taking visitors up was the highest lift to a ski area in the world, and was built with a car engine in 1939. To get to the base of the mountain, people would drive down a narrow road built in the late 1930s. The mountain was also popular for amateur hikers, which continue to visit it since the road ends only a short 660 feet or 200 meters from the mountaintop. The Observatory. Aside from the tourist services available to Bolivians, the mountain also helped the country conduct research and scientific studies. At 17,190 feet or 5,240 meters, the Mount Chacaltaya Laboratory was first opened as a weather station in 1942, just a few years after the mountain was made accessible to the public. The laboratory has been particularly prominent in the scientific community for the research investigating gamma rays that has been conducted in it. It is also notable for reportedly hosting the scientists that observed pions, any three subatomic particles when they were first found in the early 1940s. The laboratory and observatory are operated by the Laboratory for Atmospheric Physics, one of several under an international scientific consortium. It is owned by the Physics Investigations Institute of the Universidad Mayor de San Andrés, which shares the facilities with the Cosmic Rays Group. The Chacaltaya Global Atmosphere Watch joined the station in 2011 to monitor climate change in the Southern Hemisphere. The organization is particularly interested in measuring aerosols, greenhouse gases, and other chemicals along with meteorological changes. Climate change. The scientists conducting research and meteorological tracking at Chacaltaya began recording the conditions of the glacier in the 1990s. Back then, they predicted that it would probably melt around 2015. The glacier's deterioration came quicker than their estimates had hoped. From the 0.22 kilometer square area of 1940, it went down to 0.01 kilometers squared in 2007, and by 2009, only small patches of ice and snow were left here and there. Scientists claim that the disappearance of the glacier was the result of three combined factors: climate change, little precipitation, and the El Niño phenomenon of periodic warming. El Niño normally causes warm ocean water to develop in the eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. These conditions typically result in high air pressure in the western Pacific and low air pressure in the eastern Pacific. The phenomenon has a duration of around 4 years, but one cycle could last up to 7 years. The very ski visits that made the area highly valuable to some Bolivians may have played a determining role in the sped-up process of melting. But the glacier did not only serve tourists. Its most important ecological service went to La Paz and El Alto. The two cities were partially dependent on melted ice to fuel their water supply during droughts and dry seasons. While other water sources have been found since to keep the city's services sufficient, scientists from the World Bank and other relevant institutions have issued a number of warnings. Many, if not most, of the glaciers in the tropical side of the Andes mountain range will disappear in 20 years or less. When this happens, an estimated 80 million people will face water insecurity, and it will have an incalculable cost on the area's access to future generation of hydropower. What is left? Since 2009, the lift has been inoperable, and skiing has been limited to a 600-foot or 180-meter stretch that only gets enough snowfall during the winter on some days. After the permanent ice and snow melted away and skiers could no longer partake in their sports, the resort was closed down. It now sits as a ghost, reminding visitors of the effects of a changing global climate. Two brothers who used to manage the resorts continue to operate the Club Andino Boliviano Chalet, founded in 1939, and take care of the abandoned buildings. Adolfo and Samuel Mendoza have resided on the mountain peak for 35 years. They now host mostly mountaineers seeking to take in the views of the summits of Huayna Potosi, La Paz, and El Alto, and continue to maintain the highest restaurant in the world.